Here we go, everybody. Get started in a minute.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies. Only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about the team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any?
All right, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Carter, your host, and this show's going to be a little bit different today. Andrew couldn't make it; he had a bit of a scheduling conflict. Just want to apologize for everything going on in this last week. We both had a few scheduling conflicts that we just kind of had to work around, but I'm bringing in my co-host now, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is someone who I've played hockey with for a little bit. He's unfortunately a Rangers fan, so he's not very smart, but this is Kyle. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Carter? How are you?
Doing pretty good. First of all, just wanted to thank you for coming on the show today. Obviously, again, had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, but excited to have you on, bud.
Oh, thanks, Carter. Does everyone here know that I'm better than you at hockey?
No, I don't think they do, but currently we have quite a few viewers on here, so they might be learning it sometime soon.
So now they know. Okay, cool.
But anyway, we have a lot to get into here. And well, first of all, I kind of want to get into something that you should be following, somewhat closely anyway. The NHL awards are coming up tomorrow night, and Adam Fox of the New York Rangers is nominated for the Norris Trophy.
Yes, he is, as he should be.
Which, I mean, whether or not he'll win, we'll see what happens. But we're going to have a little bit of a discussion here on who we think is going to win some of these awards that are being presented tomorrow night. So what do you think? You up for that?
Oh, I'm ready for sure. I have quite a few opinions on a couple of these.
Well, I can't wait to hear that. I just want to look up here just to see which awards are being presented tomorrow night. Pretty sure it's all the big awards. Obviously, we got like the Hart Trophy, the
Calder.
The Calder. So we just try and pull that up.
Which I never saw a finalist for. Who are the finalists for Calder this year? I mean, obviously Kaprizov.
We'll be getting to that fairly shortly. So we got the Calder Trophy, the Hart, James Norris, Ted Lindsay, and the Vezina. So we'll be going over those a little bit. Also, something to note: we do have Jim Barringer from Last Word on Hockey coming in around the halfway point of the show. He's going to help us preview tonight's Stanley Cup Final Game 1. So if you want to stick around, hear his opinions on the game tonight, be sure you do that. It'll be coming up around 6:30. So yeah, without further ado, let's get going. We'll start out with the Vezina Trophy just to kind of, put things into perspective. So for those of you who don't know, the Vezina Trophy is awarded to the top goaltender in the NHL every year. We got Marc-Andre Fleury of the Vegas Golden Knights, Philip Grubauer of the Colorado Avalanche, and Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Kyle, you want to give your thought on who's going to win this award first? You want me to give mine?
I'll go first because first I want to say I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury should be on that list. I think there's a huge seniority thing going on there. Obviously, he's never won it before, regardless of him being a very legendary, very storied goaltender. And I think that's a large reason why they have him in there. And I also think it's a large reason why he's going to win. If I had a vote in it, I would probably vote for Vasilevsky, in my opinion. But I think Marc-Andre Fleury will win it.
It's an interesting take there. I like the whole seniority angle of it. I have two different answers. I have one who I think should win and who I think is going to win. And unfortunately, they're two totally different answers. I think Grubauer should win it. I think Philip Grubauer has been very underrated this season. I think he's had a very good year for an Avalanche team that would go on to win the President's Trophy. So he definitely was on an amazing team. But I'm going to be honest. I mean, I don't think Fleury's really done enough to convince me that he's winning the Norris Trophy this year. I think it's going to be Vasilevsky. I mean, he was a finalist for it last year. I mean, Vasilevsky's on a very, very good Tampa Bay Lightning team, and I think a lot of it, I'm not going to say that Vasilevsky's what I'm about to say is kind of going to come off as, maybe a little bit biased, but, I guess we'll leave that up to people at home. I think Andrei Vasilevsky is a little bit overrated, maybe just a little bit. Don't get me wrong; he's a great goalie. I mean, he's amazing, but I mean, come on, you can't help but think that he has the best defense out of those three playing in front of him. Vegas defense is good, Colorado's is good, Tampa's is they're super talented. They have four lines who can even block shots in front of them and play solid team defense as well. So, I saw you cringe a little bit there.
The thing is, something we know about NHL goalies is consistency in an NHL goalie from season to season is nearly impossible these days. I mean, Carey Price, perfect example. Dominated, wasn't that great, played great this year. Carter Hart, early in his career, but he was amazing. He looked like he was going to be the best goalie in the NHL. This year, he was probably the worst starting goalie in the NHL. It's impossible to find consistency in the NHL. To see a goalie for the past 3 years, in my opinion, be the best goalie in the NHL. It's hard to call him overrated when he does that. The last goalie I've seen have that kind of consistency is probably a long list, not to be biased. But, I mean, it's hard to come across consistency like that in a goaltender in the NHL. So that's a tough take, Carter, to call Vasilevsky overrated.
You know what? Okay. I didn't say he was entirely overrated. I said he might be a little bit, a smidge.
I mean, I get it because he does have an elite defense in front of him for sure. But I don't know. I can't get behind Vasilevsky being overrated.
I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. I do think that, again, I mean, I think all three of them are good. I'm going to try and pull up the stats really quickly just so we can try and compare them a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I like Vasilevsky as a goalie. He's very talented for what he does, but I mean, I don't think he's. I just don't know if he's deserving of the award this year. A lot of people argued that he was the favorite to win last year, and Connor Hellebuck wound up taking it home. So we'll see what happens with that. I guess I'm having a hard time trying to pull this.
I mean, Grubauer is a beast. So if Grubauer beat out Vasilevsky, I wouldn't be mad. But you can also say Grubauer. I mean, he won a President's Trophy this year, but a lot of that has to do with him having the best offense in the NHL in front of him. So it's also very helpful.
I think that's a good point. I mean, technically, to be fair, Vegas and Colorado tied for the top spot in the NHL, so I don't know how much of it is actually, I don't know if it's actually fair to make the President's Trophy argument, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be Vasilevsky. He says it's going to be Fleury. Let us know who you think is going to be the winner of the Vezina in the comments. So, yeah, we're going to move on here. We're going to talk about you want to talk about the Calder Trophy next, best rookie in the league?
Yeah, you're going to have to remind me of who this is. The only one I don't know the nominees for.
So we got
Kaprizov, obviously.
Yeah, we got Kirill Kaprizov in the Minnesota Wild, Alex Nedeljkovic, a goalie for the Carolina Hurricanes, and Jason Robertson, forward for the Dallas Stars. I see this is a lot tougher than I think it should be because Kaprizov and Robertson, a lot of people know who Kaprizov is just based on the way that he played this season and how good he was. But Robertson was very good too, and he made it quite the statistical race down the end. Down the final stretch of the season, I should say. But I think it's got to be Kaprizov, right? It has to be the way
Yeah,
that
I
he's.
mean, Kaprizov's going to win easily. I mean, he was as far as NHL media goes, I mean, he was like top 5 most talked about player this year. And obviously the media, like it's certain media journalists, people. I think it's NHL, they do media people that vote, right? Just like the NBA.
Yeah,
Media
I'm pretty
people, I
sure.
think some coaches and stuff. Some retired
Yeah, I'm pretty
players
sure
can
most
vote.
of it is just based on like the I know the Broadcasters Association gets a vote on the Selke Trophy, which is the best defensive forward in the league. Um, I want to say most of it's just based on like the like the Professional Hockey Writers Association. I know some of it comes from the Players Association as well, so it's really a culmination of things. But
Yeah, I mean, if there's a conversation we had, it could be, I guess, maybe of who's the most deserving. But I mean, I think it's obvious who they're going to give it to. I would be very shocked if Kaprizov doesn't win the Calder tonight. But
it's not tonight; it's tomorrow night, actually. So
tomorrow night. My bad.
no, I mean you're good, but I would have to agree. I think Kaprizov, just the way that I've told this to a lot of people in the past, and most of who I've said this to happens to agree with me that let's be honest. I mean, in the past, Minnesota, it's never really been looked at as a team that that's going to draw a lot of people in to watch their games. And I'm not ripping on the Minnesota Wild at all. I mean, I'm an Islander fan, and a lot of people call the Islanders boring. Do I agree with it? Nah. But
Yeah.
I mean, he might agree with it, but I don't. And a lot of people thought that about the Minnesota Wild for a long, long time. And the Minnesota Wild were a team that never really had.
Gabrick.
Yeah, they had Gabrick early in the 2000s.
I mean, they had Parise.
No, but Caprice, Parisi was never, like he didn't start out his career with the Wild.
Yeah.
It's kind of different. I mean, Kaprizov is a player who, like he's starting out his career in Minnesota. Parisi came over in free agency, so I mean, I guess you could kind of look at it as similar, but I think with the way Kaprizov just, he was so dynamic this year. It seemed like every night he was finding the score sheet, whether it was scoring a goal or, setting up one of his teammates. But I would have to think it's Kaprizov. I mean, this is the point that I was getting to earlier. I think Kirill Kaprizov makes the Minnesota Wild a lot more entertaining than they really are.
Well, he made them because he's not going to be there next year because he's going to be in Russia.
Okay, that's another thing too. I mean, this is just like a wild story. So for those of you who don't know, apparently Kirill Kaprizov's contract is over at the end of the season, and there have been rumors going around that the Minnesota Wild, I don't know if they never offered him a contract or if they offered him one and there hasn't just been any traction going in terms of conversation talks, but in terms of a contract, I mean, this, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. We've seen guys like when Austin Matthews was signing his contract. This came a few years after he won the Calder. Same thing with like Matt Barzal with the Islanders. It's like I don't know. I mean, granted, Kaprizov is around 23 years old, so he's around the same age as guys like Matthews and Barzal. But with Kaprizov, I don't think we've ever seen somebody win the Calder Trophy and then immediately like have their NHL career put in jeopardy. If I'm going to be completely honest, because
both might be able to remember somebody, and I might be wrong about this, but I can't remember a time where in any sport a star rookie is going into free agency. Like it doesn't happen. I mean, NHL is a sport where a lot of young players start their careers in like the first few years of the contract, like overseas or something. So they play their first year in the NHL on the last year of their contract. Like it happens all the time. But or it's like capable of happening. Whereas in like the NBA, usually they play year one in the NBA. But so yeah, I can't remember a single time where a guy is this good in their rookie year, and he's in a contract year. I mean, if he was to stay in the NHL, when we talked about this in the locker room of our last game, like how much money, like is he demanding too much money? And I said definitely not, because this is like having a guarantee hit on your first round pick. Like he's more valuable than a first round pick right now because he's a young player that is a superstar already, or not a superstar, but looks like a superstar.
I would argue that he's already a superstar. I know
I mean,
he's.
the
I know that.
name is, but what do you have, like 70 points this year, something like that? No,
I can pull up the stats now. I think
what was
he
he on
was
pace for
over a
his
point per game.
season?
Give me 1 second, really quickly.
I would say he's a star, like a super. I think there's only like 5 or 6 superstars in the NHL.
Well, if he's not a superstar yet, I think he'll get there
Yeah,
sooner
yeah,
rather than later.
I think he does.
He had 27 goals this season, 51 points in 55 games. So he was 4 points away from being a point per game. And I know that
He's about like a
some
70
people-
point. Okay. So if
Yeah,
there's
it
an
was-
82-game season, he'd be around 75 points probably.
I would say so, like 75, 80 around there. But
That's like a star. Yeah, it's like a really good player.
yeah, so
He looks like he's going to be a perennial all-star if he stays in the NHL.
I would say so. And I don't know how many Minnesota Wild games that you've watched. I don't know if you've watched any. Yeah, so I mean, well, the nice thing is they've had a few more nationally televised games this year than last year. Obviously, I think most of it is because of Kaprizov, but watching him play, he's just so dynamic with the puck. He's able to make passes that not a lot of guys can make, even though these are the best hockey players in the world that we're talking about. And the thing that really catches my attention anyway is the way that he's able to basically wheel around the zone with the puck and just nobody's able to take it off him. I don't mean to sound like that guy, but he kind of reminds me of Matt Barzal when he won the Calder a few years ago. Remember how he would take those laps around the zone? He'd just kind of like hold on to the puck for long periods at a time. This is exactly what Kaprizov can do. So
he's in that. He's like I mean, I always call Matt Barzal like a Connor McDavid light. Like they play like McDavid. They're not quite as good as McDavid, but they're like dynamic with the puck, great passers.
Well, if we're going to talk about what you call Barzal, I don't think we can repeat that on the air. But no, I get your point. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I think it would have to be Kaprizov if we're putting a winner on it, don't you think?
Oh yeah, no, I can't imagine they choose anyone but Kaprizov. If they do, I'd be very surprised.
I think Jason Robertson, the Stars has a chance. I mean, I don't think he'll win it. I think it's Kaprizov's trophy to lose, but
I don't think anyone will give anyone else a first place vote.
Really?
I think when the votes come out, I think Kaprizov will be the unanimous Calder.
That's pretty bold. I like it. It's bold.
I think I can't imagine who's going to not vote for him. It wouldn't even make sense for them not to.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Oh, I know. Some dumb votes.
Let's see what we got here. Well, why don't we move on to the trophy that I think you'll be paying most attention to? That's the James Norris Memorial Trophy. Again, for those of you who don't know, this trophy goes to the best defenseman in the NHL. We got Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, and last but certainly least, Adam Fox of the New York Rangers. I think everybody, based on the shots that I've been taking at you over the course of the show, knows who you're voting for. But if they don't, just come out and say who do you think's going to win.
Well, I have a surprise here. I think I've only have 2 categories where who I think is going to win and who I would vote for are matched. Because in this, I do think Victor Hedman is going to win. I think it's what they're going to vote for. But if I had a vote, and it's going to sound biased, but non-biased, I think Adam Fox should actually win. I don't see how he shouldn't. He led defensemen in points, assists, power play points, and assists, I think. And if he wasn't first, he was second. And he was really good defensively. He's really like some people talk about him like he only is a good offensive defenseman. He's a great defender. I mean, if you watch Ranger games, which it's hard not to because they are this year undeservingly on national TV a lot. He gets put in whenever he's put in a 2-on-1 on-man break. He stops it all the time. he's pretty good shutdown. He's always playing against the other team's number one line, obviously, because he's on the first pairing. Obviously, I think a guy like Ryan Lindgren is his pairing. I think Ryan Lindgren is actually a slightly better defender, but Adam Fox is a lot defensively. He is a very good defender. He's not your guy Adam Pelech defensively, but he is really good. He is in that, like, if he's not an elite defender, he's one tier below elite. He's really, really, really good, and he's elite offensively as a defenseman.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the elite offensively part. I think a lot of people kind of, when people see an offensive defenseman like Adam Fox, it's hard to get sucked into the points that he's producing rather than the defensive plays that he makes. And, I mean, obviously the Rangers are a division rival, so, I watch their games quite a bit, and I do have to agree with you that I think Adam Fox is a very solid defensive defenseman as he is in terms of putting up points. Do I think he's going to win the Norris Trophy? I don't know. I mean, it's a bit tough. I'm actually going with the player that we haven't even mentioned yet. I'm going with Cale Makar.
He's a beast.
Cale Makar is a beast, you're right. And he was about as close to a point per game as it gets as a defenseman, which is very hard to do. And granted, Fox and Hedman were both close to being a point per game in their own right. But, I think Cale Makar, he's just so – I heard a really good comparison on NBCSN one time. I forgot who made the comparison. I'm pretty sure it was Pierre Maguire. When he said that Cale Makar basically has the same offensive skill and the offensive talent as Nathan MacKinnon as a defenseman. That's incredibly high praise for a player who has only been in the league for 2 years.
Yeah, that's wild. Cale Makar is a beast, and he should definitely be there. I don't even think I told you this a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if Victor Hedman should even be a finalist, even though I think he's going to win, which is the same thing I said on Marc-Andre Fleury. I personally would have put McAvoy. If I had to rank them, I would have went Fox, Makar, McAvoy. And Makar being compared to MacKinnon. That's also a thing that, like, you can put against Makar. He plays against he plays with the best offensive team in the NHL. Of course, he contributes to that, but he also gets to play with Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon. But he's definitely him and Fox are going to be the most skilled offensive defensemen in the NHL for a very long time, and they already, like, from the eye test, are some of the most skilled we've ever seen at the defensive position. I think the NHL at the defensive position right now is in the best era they've ever been in. I think there's so much talent back there.
Yeah, it's very hard to argue against that, especially because, and I'm sure that you can kind of attest to this as being a defenseman for our roller hockey team anyway. But, I feel like in the past, playing defense in the NHL was really more about just being able to shut the other team down and kind of, limiting the other guys from scoring. Now I feel like they're looped in more with the forwards where it's, if you're putting up a lot of points, if you're getting involved offensively, you're really, you're in a good spot in terms of being recognized as one of the best in the game. And all three defensemen that are up for the Norris Trophy this year are very, very good at putting up points. One thing that I do want to note here, and I like the fact that you brought up, the Marc-Andre Fleury debate that we were having before. And I know you said this a little bit based on your point, but I do kind of feel like Victor Hedman is here just based on, just his reputation in terms of him actually winning it. Because if I'm being honest, I mean, Victor Hedman didn't have a Norris Trophy caliber regular season. I think Cale Makar did. I think Adam Fox did. That's why they're both here. Hedman's the only one where I'm scratching my head a little bit trying to figure out why exactly he's on the ballot.
I mean, they always do this, and it's so weird because, like, there's voter fatigue where, like, if a guy wins an award too often, they won't give it to him. It happens more in the NBA. Like, a lot of people think LeBron should have more MVPs than he did. Michael Jordan should have more MVPs than he did. But people who have a vote won't vote for you if you keep winning it. Like, I don't think there's ever been a 3-time-in-a-row MVP in the NBA. They always get 2, and then the third year, sometimes they deserve it and don't get it. And in the NHL, it seems like they do more the opposite. Like, if a guy doesn't deserve it as much, but he usually gets it, they'll just give it to him. And, I don't see why you don't just go full on this. Like, the young defensemen in the NHL right now are so good. I don't see why not go full on and give it to all three of them: McAvoy, Makar, and Fox. And even last year, the call there should have been a three-way race between defensemen. Because it blows my mind that Adam Fox wasn't a Calder finalist last year. That's why it's great to see him break out this year and join the Norris Trophy candidates. But yeah, I don't understand why Victor Hedman's there either. I would have went McAvoy. I don't even know if I would have put Hedman fourth, honestly. And I think he's going to win it. I think they're going to vote for him. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he had a Calder caliber year. But I do think not Calder, sorry, Norris. But I do think he is going to win it. I think they're going to vote for him.
It's a little unfortunate because as much as I might hate to say this, I do think it would be cool to see Adam Fox win the Norris Trophy.
Yeah.
You know, and the cool thing is, though, I mean, if you didn't know this before, you're going to find out now. We're both from Long Island. And obviously Adam Fox was born on Long Island as well. He's from Jericho. So it would be cool to see a Long Island kid. Obviously he's living out his childhood dream playing at Madison Square Garden for the Rangers. And he's able to win the Norris Trophy. I feel like that'd be pretty cool. And not to mention, he also played at the same roller hockey rink that we currently play at as well. So it would be really cool to say that we've played on the same ice as a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. So
yeah, and I mean he's young, and I personally, I mean, you may disagree with it, or you may in your heart of hearts want to disagree with it because it would suck for you if this is the case. But I personally think this isn't the last time he's going to be a Norris. I keep saying Calder, a Norris finalist. I think if he wins it this year, this isn't going to be the last time he wins it either. I think
absolutely not.
He has a long, long, successful career ahead of him, hopefully with a few cups in there.
Not with the Rangers, of course, but
he's on his way to have a very good career. So is Cale Makar, too. I think Cale Makar, if he doesn't win it this year, will win it at some point in his career. And
you want to hear a hot take about it? I completely agree with you, by the way, that I think, to be honest, even if Adam Fox doesn't win it this year, I think he'll be nominated a few more times down the road, and I think he wins a couple down the road, if I'm being completely honest with that. But I know a lot of people, at least last year when it was Cale Makar who won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year, a lot of people were talking about the debate between him and Quinn Hughes, and Adam Fox was kind of looked at as like the B tier out of those three players. I think Adam Fox is really starting to come into his own, and I think now he's better than Quinn Hughes.
Oh, you have to say that. I mean, he was much better than Quinn Hughes was this year.
Well,
he might be recognized this year as the best defenseman in the NHL this season. He really got. Not disrespected because Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes were both slightly better than he was last year, but rookie seasons don't mean anything. If you have a good career in the NHL, your rookie year should be one of your worst years, technically, because you're supposed to get better after your rookie year. And Adam Fox has done that. That's why it's really, really, really cool to see him get put in this Norris Trophy conversation after not even being a finalist last year. He didn't even get put as the third best rookie, which I thought was crazy. I would have gave him third last year. I would have went Makar, Hughes, Fox. And now I think Fox is honestly better than Quinn Hughes. And I think the debate is Makar or Fox, I think, for the best young defenseman in the NHL.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And I think part of the reason that I'm saying that is because, and this was really apparent this season, I know the Canucks had their COVID outbreak. They struggled with a lot of different things this year. But I think the thing with Cale Makar and Adam Fox is that they're both very solid, both offensively and defensively. And we were talking about that earlier. With Quinn Hughes, I feel like it's very one-dimensional. Like, he's very good offensively, but defensively, I mean, I love Quinn Hughes as a player, but he's one of the worst defensemen in the league when it comes to playing, defensive positional hockey. So, I'm not a big advanced statistics guy, but it shows a lot in terms of, how Quinn Hughes plays. But, it'll definitely be cool to see, see Adam Fox. If he does win the Norris Trophy, I know, a lot of people will be going nuts for that in our hockey group chat. So, it would definitely be cool to see. But we're going to move on to the last two awards we have here, and I'm kind of grouping these into the same category because they kind of mean the same thing. So we got the Ted Lindsay Award. That's the MVP as voted on by the NHLPA, and then we have the Hart Trophy, which is the league MVP. So I'll start with the Ted Lindsay here. The finalists for that are Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. And then for the Hart Trophy, Matthews and McDavid are both finalists as well. The only change is you're taking out Crosby and putting in Nathan McKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. I would think McDavid has to take both of these home, right? I think he's.
This is another one where I don't see how anyone else gets a first place vote, except in the Ted Lindsay. I don't know if they come out with the actual official poll for the Ted Lindsay one, but I'm sure because NHL players respect other guys, I'm sure they'll all get some first place votes for that one. But for Hart, I don't see how you give anyone else a first place vote other than McDavid. I also would take out Crosby and the Ted Lindsay and throw McKinnon in there for both. I don't like how they have both of these because I get it. Like you want to see who the players like the most, but like just have one MVP.
No, but it means the same thing basically. The only difference is you're taking the voting away from, like the journalists of the NHL, like the broadcasters or whoever votes for it, and you're switching it over to the players. Like it basically means the same exact thing. So I really don't know. I don't know.
Well, the Ted Lindsay is to see who like it's a cool award because it means you have the respect of your peers. That's always like a cool thing, I guess. But I mean, it just means who's the best player in the NHL this year. And the NHL, which I really like, they don't do the most valuable thing because then that just comes into so many things. They do the best player in the NHL, which is always cool, right? Hart's not MVP, right? If they do best player or whatever.
Hart's league MVP is voted on
Oh,
by
it is?
the broadcasters, and then the Ted Lindsay is voted on by the
Most
Players
outstanding
Association.
player. Okay, I'm stupid then.
I know.
You do MVP. Yeah, but either way, McDavid should win both. And he will win both, I think. But yeah, that's what they do with the Ted Lindsay. I think they should just give some NHL players a vote for Hart rather than have two separate awards. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would think that McDavid wins the Hart Trophy anyway. I mean, and I think the proof is in the pudding here, especially when you look at the points. Connor McDavid put up 105 points.
In 58 games.
Yeah, in 56 games.
56 games. Crazy.
Like,
I mean, but then you also have, like, let's give some respect. Austin Matthews did have a 40-goal season this year.
No,
Like,
I know, but Connor
wild.
McDavid put up 105 points.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure, hang on, let me just check this really quickly.
it was like third
Uh,
all time in that span of games. I think they said.
That is true, yeah. Just to put it into perspective, by the way, Matthews had 41 goals in 56 games. Connor McDavid had 33.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Austin Matthews is going to win. I'm just saying Austin Matthews he did some great things this year, scoring 40 goals. He was probably on pace for like 65 goals. Like that's pretty nuts too.
Yeah, something like that. It's insane.
But yeah, I mean, McDavid. Like, what else can you say about McDavid, man? He doesn't do it in the playoffs, but it's all right. He's insane in the regular season. Which is, let's give respect to the last guy too, Nathan McKinnon. I've always felt like Nathan McKinnon, although he's not quite as talented and as good as McDavid, he gets it done in the playoffs. He has some deep playoff runs. They didn't make it this year. I actually thought they were going to win the cup this year. They didn't. But McKinnon's a beast. Matthews is a beast. But McDavid is just... If he gets going in the playoffs, he's going to go down as probably the greatest player who ever lived.
Or McDavid?
Yes.
I think he's got to win a few cups first. But
Yeah,
I would have to.
if he starts getting it done in the playoffs and starts winning a little bit, he's got it. He's going to get put in that conversation. He's already doing insane things, and he's still in his 20s.
Yeah. He's 24 years old, and he's already at
Not even his prime.
574 career points. That's nuts.
For athletes, statistically your prime goes from like 26 to like 33. So he's not even in his prime.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's just crazy to think about.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't even know, man. I mean, like, here's the thing. Some guys struggle to put up 100 points in an 82-game season. Connor McDavid did it in half. This is like basically half the amount of the season, and he still put up 105 points.
It's crazy.
If this was an 82-game season, he probably would have hit 130, 140.
There are really good offensive players who have never hit 100 points in a season. John Tavares has never hit 100 points in a season.
That's different because he's trash. No, we're kidding.
Matt Barzell's never hit. Like, there's so many And those are both two very talented offensive players.
Well, that's the thing, though. That proves, both of our points where we're saying it's so hard to put up 100 points in the NHL. It's hard to score consistently in general. And again, you brought up the point that Matthews scored 40 goals in a shortened season. I'm not taking anything away from that. But Austin Matthews, he's good at putting the puck in the back of the net. He's definitely a good playmaker. I mean, his assists show that. But, Connor McDavid, while he might not be a better goal scorer than Austin Matthews, I think he's solid at putting the puck in the net, and he's solid at just, being able to set up his teammates.
He's better than solid at putting the puck in the net.
Well, yeah, solid's a bit of an understatement. I'm running out of words to describe a guy like Connor McDavid at this point, but I just want to put this into perspective here before we agree that Connor McDavid should be the unanimous winner. If we're talking about points, right? Austin Matthews had 66 points in addition to his 40 goals, which is good. That's how many points did I say Austin Matthews had? I said 66, right?
Yes.
Connor McDavid had 72 assists.
Yeah, he's insane. I mean, he's insane.
He had more assists than Austin Matthews had points.
I mean,
anyone, as much as I want to give the Hart Trophy to a guy like Austin Matthews, and I've said this in the past, I love Austin Matthews. I love the way he plays. He's probably my favorite player in the league that's not currently an Islander, but I don't think you can go another way without being biased. Connor McDavid, he is the clear-cut winner to win the Hart Trophy. I don't really think it's that close. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what
the guy every single year he's healthy. If Connor McDavid has a fully healthy year, he's probably going to be the best player in the NHL because he is the best player in the NHL by far. Second is a debate between a lot of people, and all those people are nowhere near Connor McDavid. There's a long list of guys you could put as second in the NHL, and none of them are in the same stratosphere as McDavid.
Just to, keep adding to the debate of how crazy Connor McDavid is, he finished with 105 points, right? The next closest scorer in the NHL, who also happens to be his teammate in Leon Draisaitl, McDavid had 21 more points than Leon Draisaitl did. This is just wild to me. I don't know how McDavid doesn't win the Hart Trophy. I think he's the unanimous pick. He should be the unanimous pick to win the Hart Trophy, but I don't know. It's wild to think about.
I can't see anyone else putting anyone else number one.
Well, we'll see what happens. Be sure to tune into the NHL Awards tomorrow night. Now, without further ado, we're going to bring in this is Jim Berenger. He is the host of Last Word on Hockey. Jim, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing well. A little depressed that the Islanders aren't playing tonight, but it's definitely exciting to get into the Stanley Cup final. Well, first, before we get into the Stanley Cup final, anyway, we're going to preview the two recap the two semifinal series. So let's start out with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Advancing to their second consecutive Cup final, they defeat the Islanders in 7 games. I just want to get your thoughts on what did you guys see out of this series? And I really don't think it was. A lot of people want to say the Lightning outplayed the Islanders by a big amount. Maybe I'm biased, but I didn't see it playing out that way. So, Jim, we'll start with you. What did you think of this Islanders and Lightning semifinal matchup?
I thought the Islanders played really well against Tampa Bay Lightning this time around. I thought they played well last year, but this year they improved on a lot of things. The biggest problem for the Islanders was stopping Braden Point. I mean, he just was all over the ice for them. Anytime that Lightning needed a big goal, he was there. Same with Yanni Gourde. I mean, I was there for Game 3. After the Islanders had tied the game, the place was rocking. And then on the expiring power play, the guy's falling to the ground and puts the puck in the net, and that ends up being the game winner. The Islanders played well, give them credit against a good Tampa Bay team. They just didn't stay out of the box enough. I thought, they had chances in, Game 3 and Game 4. Obviously, they won Game 4 and 6. Game 5, just throw it out the window. It was just a blowout. Sometimes good teams show up. But for me, what was puzzling Game 7 is they just didn't get enough shots on Andrei Vasilevsky. They let Tampa dictate the play, and when that happens, the Lightning just show why they're the best team, one of the best teams in the league. And yeah, I mean, Barzell had the chance, to tie the game, but again, Vasilevsky, give credit to the Lightning for playing that hard defensive style. I think for me, the thing is that, Anders Lee's not there. They didn't get the depth goal scoring that they had all season. Goal scoring was a problem for them, but, not having Lee, it might have been a different series. It might not have been, but to have him there, he can always score a big goal for you, and not having, the killer B line going and that Pajot line slowed down a bit. And we find out he's playing with an injury, definitely hurt them, because those two lines carried them in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of the things that I said going in was, if you want to take down the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, granted, they might look like a super team on paper, but they are beatable, believe it or not. It might seem, a bit gratuitous to say that, but I think the big thing was just staying out of the box. And like you said, Jim, the Islanders didn't do it. I mean, they put Tampa on way too many power play chances, and when you play with fire, you're going to get burnt, and that's what happened in this case. I do want to point out one thing, though, that going into Game 7, the 1-0 loss, where the Lightning scored a shorthanded goal and wound up winning the game. Did you guys know that was the only shorthanded goal that the Islanders had given up all season, including the regular season?
Damn, that's really crazy. That's a good stat.
Yeah,
You'd be on the wrong side of it, but it's a good stat.
There's a tough time to let up your only shorthanded goal. I've been hearing that too, people saying that the Lightning completely outplayed the Islanders. It's hard to say in a 7-game series. I mean, they completely outplayed them in Game 7 for the most part anyway. But, I mean, the Islanders put up a tough fight. The Islanders, I had them. Carter, you had them going out in the first round. I had them going out in the second round. So they overstayed their welcome, which is always a good thing to do in sports. I mean, if you go further than expectations. To be honest, the Islanders were one of the best defensive teams all year, and you always will be when you have Barry Trotz as your coach. But they ran into a team that's just as good as them, if not better defensively, but can score more goals because they have a guy Nikita Kucherov is hurt for a decent part of the season, series. But Brandon Point is on fire. I mean, I don't know how you stop that. And Vasilevsky is just better than both of the goalies in the really good goalie tandem for the Islanders. So,
I mean, for me, Varlamov, it was the reason why it was 1-0. I mean, if he doesn't make a lot of those saves he makes in the first period, it's an 8-0 round like it was in Game 5, because he stood on his head. This goal support was just not there for him. So if anybody's criticizing Semyon Varlamov for his play, they're dead wrong, because he kept them in that game. He kept it a 1-0 game because the way he played, he stood on his head. Especially, I saw fire in his eye in Game 6 after he gave up that second goal. He was determined not to give up another goal, and he played really well. And he only gave up 1 goal in Game 7, and it was just a defensive zone breakdown, and they just let Yanni Gourde come in. So Semyon Varlamov played a heck of a series for the Islanders.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it had to wait to end the way that it did, but hockey's a game of inches, it's a game of bounces, and sometimes you just don't get them to go your way. So, now it'll be interesting to see what happens here. The Islanders have a long offseason ahead of them. They have a few big name free agents that they got to re-sign, mainly in Ilya Sorokin, Anthony Beauvillier, Casey Cizikas, Kyle Palmieri. I know I'm missing a few, but it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with that. Kyle talked about this before, where he said that sometimes it's a good thing to kind of, I don't know if overstay your welcome is the right terminology to describe it, but it's certainly one way to take note of it. And I think another team that did that, and they actually wound up knocking off the higher seed in this case, was the Montreal Canadiens. And for those of you who, either didn't watch this series or don't know that this happened, no, that's not a typo. The Vegas Golden Knights have been eliminated by the Montreal Canadiens. And Montreal is going to the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 1993. Guys, I really don't know what to make of this. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I had Vegas in this series in 6 games, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Carey Price played outstanding in this series, like he has all playoffs long, and the Canadiens are in the Stanley Cup final all because of it.
I mean, yeah, you got to feel really good for Carey Price. He's had a very long storied career, and he's had some really good seasons come up short. He's had a lot of really good battles against my Rangers. We knocked him off twice. I mean, he got hurt in one of them, but you got to feel really good for him. He's standing on his head all playoffs. And I mean, the emergence of Cole Caulfield, kid's on fire. And I don't know what to make of that. Like, who knows? Is he going to be this good for his NHL career? Like, is this who Cole Caulfield is in the NHL? Or is this like a Tyler Johnson situation in 2014 where he plays out of his mind for a playoff run and then he's just a really good NHL player? So I've been really impressed with Cole Caulfield, and Carey Price is doing what he's done his whole career, honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I agree with that. I mean, Carey Price stood on his head, but you got to give credit to this Canadians coaching staff, putting belief in them. I was hearing Luke Richardson saying yesterday during the press conference that, he was asked about being an underdog. He's like, we're not underdogs. The head coach put this instilled in us that this team believes that they can play with anybody, and they showed it with Vegas. I mean, look, on the Vegas side of things, this is the second year in a row where the big guns just don't show up when the games matter the most. I mean, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, the list goes on that gets shut down. But give credit to the Canadians playing that defensive style system. Philip the nose line just shutting those guys down. Cole Caulfield's just been amazing. He outscored 5 Vegas Golden Knight players by himself. Their defense is playing well, and that ridiculous penalty kill that stopped 30 straight penalties now. Killed off 30 straight penalties, 42 of 45 going into the Stanley Cup final. Those are unreal numbers. But again, like you said, you got to feel good for Carey Price. Just something about this Canadians team that, when they keep the games close, they play their structure, they're not going to beat themselves, and they've proven that they can come back. And, they got the rest they needed. And now they're in the Stanley Cup final, and, anything can happen when you get to this point, and they knocked off some good teams to get along the way. But again, you look at Vegas, goaltending wasn't a problem. Defense wasn't a problem. It was goal scoring. And again, their big guns didn't get it done, and Montreal capitalized on their opportunities.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask you guys something that I've heard thrown around a couple of times, and mainly from I don't know if you guys watch his YouTube videos at all, but the hockey guy actually mentioned this when he was breaking down the Golden Knights and Canadian series. And he mentioned, obviously, we all know that the Golden Knights went to the Stanley Cup final in their inaugural season. They were kind of that team of, they were kind of like the island of misfit toys, if you will, right? That they were made up of a bunch of players that had chips on their shoulders, mainly because their teams left them unprotected in the expansion draft. Now, if you look at this Golden Knights team on paper, yeah, I think they're more skilled, but I think that, I kind of want to get both your thoughts on this. Do you guys think that now they're kind of getting into more of like a skill over like the right mentality kind of thing? Or what do you guys think's wrong with the Vegas Golden Knights? Because they definitely have enough talent to make it back to the Stanley Cup final, I should say, but I mean, it just hasn't worked out for them.
I don't know, man. It boggles my mind how they've even gotten here. They've been in the NHL for 3 years, and they've been to a Stanley Cup, a Western Conference final, or whatever, I guess a semifinal they called it this year. I mean, regardless of if you want to say mindset or whatever, they've overachieved. They are an expansion team. They should still be terrible right now. Like, they are. Like, think about where the Houston Texans were in their third year. Like, they are in their third year in the NHL. It is insane to me that they're here. But yeah, I mean, they're a really good team. It doesn't make sense if you look at them on paper. It doesn't make sense how they lose to a team like the Canadians. But the Canadians are a team who are overachieving now. So I really can't answer that, to be honest. It might be a thing with talent over mindset, but I don't know. They boggle my mind.
To me, I looked at the Vegas Golden Knights. I've said this a lot during the year. They were the misfits. They had the mentality, us against the world. They were the lovable losers. Everybody wants to come in and love this team because, Golden Knights. But then it kind of switched, and when they started adding all these players at the salary cap, Pietrangelo comes there, they trade for Pacioretty, Stone. They became like the evil empire of the NHL, like the Yankees. They just want to add everybody. They want to win a championship. And give credit to Bill Foley. He wants to win a title within the first 5 years. But sometimes you have to go through those growing pains. And they lost in the Stanley Cup final, and no expansion team has ever gone to the Stanley Cup final in their first year outside of the 1967 draft, where they, put the expansion teams in their own bracket, where St. Louis made like 3 straight final appearances. But, then they lose in their first round on that, what happened in that Game 7, and then they lose again in a conference final and then a semifinal. Like you said, they shouldn't be at this point, but they are. But again, when they want to get to the next level, they just can't get there because I don't think they've gone through the growing pains of learning what it takes to lose before you can win, like Tampa's done with their runs, 15, and they lose in back-to-back conference final, then they get swept. They've learned to put in the hard yards and what it takes to play defense and get those timely goal scoring. And I think that's what Vegas needs to do before they can actually hoist the Stanley Cup.
Absolutely. And one last thing here before we move on to our Stanley Cup final preview. I do think Vegas has to upgrade their center depth a little bit. I mean, let's be honest, they have a lot of depth on the wing. Obviously, their defense score is very impressive. And they have two solid goaltenders in Fleury and Robin Leonard. But, I mean, you look at their center depth, it's really nothing to write home about. I mean, you have Chandler Stevenson, who, I mean, okay, he's solid, but I don't think he's going to bring you to the promised land as a first-line center. I mean, you had William Karlsson, who, if we're going back to that magical first year that the Golden Knights had, he was incredible. Since then, he's kind of been average. I mean, he's been okay. But, I'd like to see them kind of go after a big name. I don't know how they would make this work. It would sure be entertaining, but could we see the Golden Knights possibly putting a bid? It could happen. I think Vegas needs their number one center sometime soon if they want to bring a championship back to Las Vegas. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We're going to move on here. We got game one of the Stanley Cup final tonight, the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Guys, I'm going to ask you both two questions here. I want you to both fill in the blank. So we'll start out with Montreal. The Canadiens will win the cup if blank. Kyle, you go first.
I'm going to stick with who I was talking about before. Cole Caulfield stays hot because we know what Carey Price is going to do. I would mention Carey Price, but I don't think there's an if with Carey Price. I think he's going to play really well. So it's really just like these games are going to be close because Tampa Bay's got a great defense and an elite goalie, and Montreal's got an elite goalie. So if Montreal can stay behind the scoring of Cole Caulfield, I think they can do it. And I don't even think it's a guarantee that they will win if Cole Caulfield continues to play well, but I think that's a factor that will allow them to have a shot at stealing this series from Tampa.
For me, it's that penalty kill and getting that first goal. You know what the Canadiens can do when they score that first goal, especially when they get their depth scoring going. They're 10-2 in the postseason, scoring first. So, and their penalty kill has been great. They got to stay out of that box. I mean, we talked about it with the Islanders. You can't give Tampa Bay chance after chance after chance because eventually they're going to put one in the net, and the Canadiens need to stay out of the box. Obviously, penalties are going to happen in any game, but if you can limit Tampa to 1, even 2, you're doing a good job, and that's what they need to do. Like Kyle said, you can mention Carey Price. Carey Price is going to play out of his mind. It's the Stanley Cup final. He's proven in the Olympics he can step up his game when he needs to, and he's doing it this year. But for me, it's that depth scoring for Montreal, and getting the first goal is important for them because that's how they win their hockey games.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I'm trying to think of what else the Canadiens would be able to do. In my opinion, what I think the Canadiens should be able to do, and I feel like maybe they could get to, guys like Nikita Kucherov, who, we know that he's playing a little bit hurt, but he's also been known to have a bit of a temper. If Montreal can use these guys like Corey Perry, and maybe even a little bit of like Joel Armia or like Josh Anderson, guys who have known to been a little bit of an agitator, to get Tampa to take penalties. Tampa's penalty kill is good, but it's not amazing. And I think Montreal has a lot of scoring talent on their power play that can really take advantage of that. So, again, as long as you're staying out of the box, like Jim said, and you can really force this Tampa team to take penalties, Montreal could win a few games just based on their power play alone. So we'll see what happens with that. We got the second part of what I was about to say. The Lightning will win the cup if blank. Jim, you want to start us out with this one?
It's pretty simple. Andre Vasilevsky's got to keep playing like Andre Vasilevsky. Obviously, they know they have point. They have their power play. But Andre Vasilevsky's the key to that team, and he's proven that in every series. Those guys are going to get their points, and they're going to have their Coleman line score, and Gord's going to score, and all those guys are going to score. But they got to keep playing solid in front of Andre Vasilevsky, and he's going to keep playing at the Conn Smythe level that he's playing at. That's where I see Tampa winning. Obviously, yeah, we could talk about their power play. We could talk about Stamkos, all those guys, but it's on Andre Vasilevsky in this series for Tampa Bay.
I'm just gonna say if they play like the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, let's be honest, they're the better team. I don't want to discredit Montreal. They deserve to be here. They're playing great. They are a really good young team. But if the Lightning play like the Lightning, they should win in 5, maybe 6 games. They're the better team. That's all they have to do is play like themselves, and they'll win in 5 or 6.
I heard somebody say this the other day. The Tampa Bay Lightning can only the only reason the Tampa Bay Lightning lose is because of the Tampa Bay Lightning. If they beat themselves, that's how they lose hockey games. They don't beat themselves very often, especially with John Cooper as a head coach. But Montreal is going to make life difficult for them, especially in the neutral zone. Tampa Bay played a similar team in the Islanders, but I think Montreal's just a little bit better than they are when it comes to what they have in scoring wise. And Kyle, your point about Cole Caulfield is spot on, because ever since he came into the playoffs for Montreal, they've been a different team.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys had to pick who you think the Conn Smythe Trophy winner would be as of right now, Jim touched on it a little bit. I think we can all agree that if Montreal wins the Stanley Cup, I think Carey Price has to be the Conn Smythe winner. I mean, I don't think there's really another option. So, but I don't know. I mean, if Tampa wins, who do you guys think would win the Conn Smythe? Because there's a little bit more of a debate than in terms of what the Canadians have.
I mean, personally, for me, it should go to Andre Vasilevsky. He should be the odds-on favorite for Tampa, but I could see it going a point for what he's done. I could see it going to Kucherov because he's the points leader. But to me, I think Vasilevsky should get it for Tampa.
I'll play devil's advocate and say point. He scored goals in like 10 straight games?
9 straight.
9 straight games in the playoffs. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I think Vasilevsky's obviously playing at a level in which he deserves it. But I think if Point got it, it wouldn't be a big surprise, nor would he be undeserving of it. I mean, he's been playing out of his mind.
Well, now it looks like we got an entertaining part of the show here, because I'm going with a different option than either one of you. I think here's the thing, right? We were talking about Connor McDavid earlier in the show. It's impressive to see a player leading the league to be the same. The fact of the matter is, though, the guy who's currently leading the playoffs in scoring didn't play at all during the regular season. I got to go with Nikita Kucherov. It's crazy what this guy has been able to do in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, he's torn the Islanders apart quite a few games. So, unfortunately, I've been able to see it firsthand. But, I mean, granted, Tampa was a good team in the regular season, but now they just look like a totally different beast. I mean, and a lot of people are saying that the Lightning are cheaters or whatever for being over the salary cap. I don't agree with that. I mean, 2015 when they brought Kane back from an injury. So, I really don't see it like that. I mean, it's just kind of taking advantage of the cap that you have. But if you want to call the Lightning cheaters, then, by all means, I'm not going to. But Stanley Cup Final Game 1 tonight at 8 p.m. We do have a little bit of news to get into. The NHL releasing some details from their PR department today. We got the 2022 NHL Winter Classic will be the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues on January 1st, 2022 at Target Field, home of the Minnesota Twins. The All-Star Game in 2022 going to the Vegas Strip. Las Vegas will host the All-Star Game for the first time. Then we got the Navy Federal Credit Union Stadium Series in Nashville, Tennessee, between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Nashville Predators at Nissan Stadium, home of the Titans, on February 26th, 2022. And we also have the Heritage Classic being announced, sponsored by Tim Hortons. No teams have been announced just yet, but usually those are pretty entertaining to watch in terms of that. So, guys, now that we got through all of our NHL news, I just want to thank you for coming on the show and talking a little bit of Stanley Cup Final hockey. Hopefully we'll be back sometime soon to talk about the winners of Game 1. And guys, again, just thanks for coming on. You can listen to Jim's show, Last Word on Hockey. It's an amazing show that he has over there, so be sure to check that out. Yeah, so you guys have any last second comments before we head off for the night?
I'm just interested to see, just to see these matchups again. And I saw Bettman come out with that, they changed the All-Star game because remember, it's supposed to be in Florida. So that's a surprise move to go to Vegas, but I'm not surprised because they want to do it in Vegas. Maybe they should just have it in Vegas every year. I mean, that I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, it'd certainly make for more of an appeal for the players anyway. They also took the Stadium Series away from Carolina, which I thought was kind of odd, but maybe that'll be something down the line that, they'll bring back in the future. But Kyle, you got anything you want to say before we log off for the night?
Not really. Go Habs. I don't want to see the Lightning go back-to-back.
Yeah, go Habs is right.
Well, we're all rooting for the Habs, it looks like, I guess. So go Habs, go. We'll be rooting for them. Like I said, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight on NBCSN. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 2-on-0 Hockey Show. Thanks again for watching, and we will be back